Hello and welcome to Manifesting Napoleon Hill. My name is Beverly Fells Jones and I am the Silver Fox of Consciousness, and I help you discover and bring out the best that you can be by teaching you how to consciously talk to your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind is what leads you and guides you and makes decisions for you before you even think about it. Today's episode, we're going to discuss what Napoleon Hill calls the seventh evil fear. I mean, it's like, wow. So let's get started. All right, welcome back. All right, so in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Now let me go back a little bit. Some of you who have been listening to me already know this, but in 1937, Napoleon Hill published a book called Think and Grow Rich, and it was a blockbuster seller. And you go, okay. Well, other people were writing things. Other people were writing books on making money and doing that. Why was this book so big? And to this day, 2020, April 2020, people are still buying the book and still reading the book. And it's because he had some really great major philosophies. Now, some people say read this book at least once a year. I don't say read the book once a year. Don't read it like you read a novel. It is go into a study of the book once a year. There's many reasons for that. There is so much information in this book that will change the way you think and the way you look at the world and the way you look at where your circumstances are. I've said many times that if you look around you and look at your circumstances, it will also reflect how you think, how you feel. I look around me and I think about when I, let's say, got a certain piece of furniture. I think about what I was thinking at the time and why I bought it. When I look at a picture on the wall, such as one of the pictures back here, what was I doing? Where was I? Why did I buy that picture? What was I feeling like? How did I feel about me at the time? There are things you can look at your home or where you live and you can look at that, or how did you get in the situation you are right now? Now, many of us at this time are in really dire straits because of the coronavirus. Because many of us have lost jobs, many of us are stuck in our house, and we are nervous and we're scared and we're just, I can hear it in my voice, the tension that I experience, which means I have to go for a walk today and walk the stress out of my body. So looking at who I am and what I do, I have to look at what Napoleon Hill says and does. So what I was thinking, in his book, he talks about the six fears, the six basic fears. So let me share those with you. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health. Right at this moment, a lot of us are looking at poverty and ill health. We could care less about criticism, except if we get on Facebook. All right. But we're worried about those things. The fear of loss of love of someone. So this is fear of somebody stopping loving us. But right now, we are in fear of losing a loved one or a good friend. Fear of old age. Well, I'm already old according to people out there, but I don't feel old. But the fear of old age. And that part of that is the idea that as you get older, you get sicker and you get weaker and you lose your memory and you're afraid of the things that could come with old age. And I've talked about that before. And the last one is the fear of death. And right now, the fear of death, the fear of the loss of a loved one, ill health, poverty, they're all in our consciousness. Every last one of them is in our consciousness. And we have trying to figure out what to do and how to survive. I think you all will agree with me in that. And there are things that if we get ourselves calm enough, we can start thinking of ways to survive, or thinking of ways that, well, if this happens, I'll do this, or I'll do this. But a lot of us are frozen, just frozen in what we do. So, what's the seventh thing? Well, he calls it the devil's workshop, the seventh basic evil, not even a fear. He calls it an evil. And I myself totally agree with it. I've done several videos and podcasts on this subject of what this is. So, what is it? It's the susceptibility to negative influences. You know, there was an experiment a while back, and this was years ago. The TV stations, one in particular, decided to try an experiment, and that experiment was Only Do Good News, a show that only did good news. You're probably already with me. Yeah, it failed because nobody was watching. But the more blood and gore and controversy and whatever, people would watch. Devastations and tornadoes and car accidents and shootings and some politician doing controversy. They found that they got a lot of people. Negativity. Why do we feed on negativity? Even though many people within their religious belief talk about love and caring and helping other people and I want good news, but the good news shows don't make it. The ones that are funny, but inside the funny there's something negative that happens inside the funny. Thankfully, we do have movie studios and places that give us funny. So we need to think about how we need to take care of ourselves. So, looking at the seventh basic evil, as he calls it, susceptibility to negative influences. So, let me see what chapter this is in. This is in chapter 15 for those of you who have the Think and Grow Rich book. He talks about men who accumulate great riches always protect themselves against negative thoughts and influences. and I kind of agree with this. The poverty-stricken never do. How many of you are sitting and glued and I've read on Facebook of husbands and wives glued to the television set. It's like, it's the same stuff over and over and over again, right? Are you glued to the news? Turn it off. Turn it off. Find the things where people are telling you how you can protect yourself and make yourself better. The last episode of this, I talked about improving your immune system and taking the vitamin D and getting out in the sun, doing things to help you. And I'm going to add this today. I found out more from lung doctors who tell you if you do start getting the cough, if you stood, don't lay down. Even though you may have a fever, don't lay down. Get up, raise your arms up, shake yourself, go for a walk. I know it might be painful. He said, but move yourself, because you want to move and shake and move things around in your body and your lungs and breathe deeply. Now that's what I heard. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a homeopathic. I'm just a person that studies. So I just decided to add that in the middle. Eat the right foods, take the good supplements, and help your immune system be strong. That's all I'm going to tell you. But turn off the television, right? Napoleon Hill tells us that we have to prepare our mind for positive stuff. Examine ourselves. Examine and say, well, is that negative? You know, if you've got somebody who you believe is a positive person, who always looks at the positive side of things, then I would suggest that you give them permission to tell you when you're negative. I had a friend, past tense, notice that, who was always talking negative. My daughter even noticed it. And whenever I would mention to her, but that's a negative statement. No, it's not. You know, I've been studying this stuff for years, and yes, it is. It is negative. How can you say that in a positive way? I'll never get that job is a negative. Versus, what can I do to prepare myself that I am the best candidate for that job? I know I can be qualified, or I am qualified for that job. Oh, they won't give me this job because, you know, they like Sally better than me. You know, how do you know that? Yeah, they may have favors with them, but if you become their go-to person, if you are doing your job and performing, and if they ask you to do something, you get it done, and you get it done quickly, they will start looking at you and depending on you. That's part of the philosophy that Napoleon Hill has talked about. But so changing your mind and being positive. I like chapter 7, but also chapter 15 here. He has a bunch of questions in here for you to answer, and you need to sit down. No, I won't tell you you need to. I suggest that if you have the book, or you come and do the master class with me, you will do this. But to sit down and read the questions and actually see what the answers are. And I for yourself, I also make the suggestion that sometimes you might ask somebody else, I'm going to read you this question. Do you see this in me? What do you see in me? Do I do this? Because sometimes we are blinded by our own thoughts and who we are. So we need to look at ourselves critically, and then people who know us help us with that. We've got to develop a great state of mind. We've got to believe in who we are and we need to protect ourselves from the negative influences. He talks about we have willpower, and I go, person power. Willpower deals with the subconscious a little bit, but we have to be so much in belief of who we are and what we do that we're able to overcome the negative inner influences. That we might say something negative. I don't have a green thumb. I used to say that. I don't anymore. But then I go, well, why don't I have a green thumb? What do I need to know? I tried to grow celery, and I couldn't grow it. It just wouldn't grow for me. So I went searching, and you'd see these places talk about celery. I finally found a station, my buddy M.I. Gardner, and he said, celery seeds need light in order to germinate. Well, I was doing like every other seed, sowing the celery seeds and putting dirt over them. All right, so one year I finally put the seeds on top. They germinated, and I had so many celery plants, I gave away a ton of celery plants for people to do. Now, the celery you grow at home doesn't come out like the one that's in the store. Just be aware of that. But I had to change. Why didn't I have a green thumb? Why couldn't I grow celery? Not just, I'll never be able to grow celery. Change my mind by doing some research and finding out where my deficiency was in my knowledge, and it changed it. So being able to put that go-to-itness, that willpower, as he says, into place will help you change and get out of that negative state. So you see something negative, you ask yourself, what do I want instead? I didn't want to not be having a green thumb, but being able to grow that celery, that's what I wanted instead. And I eventually got it. He says, recognize the fact that you and every other human being are, by nature, lazy, indifferent, and susceptible to all suggestions which harmonize with your weaknesses. Wonder why. And you may say, I'm not lazy, but in some areas you may be. In some areas you may be indifferent. And you need to recognize those areas. I know there are areas where I am lazy and I'm indifferent. And I work on theirs and say, okay, why am I lazy in this area? Why don't I want to do this in this area? So we're susceptible to those 6 basic fears, and right now they're major on our mind and pressing down on us and making us nervous and scared, and we need to take a deep breath and work our way out of that by asking, what do I want instead? I know that little $1,200 isn't going to do much good if you're by yourself and you're single. But if you're in your household, there's multiple checks. It may help you survive until things open up. Hopefully, there's jobs online that you can find. I don't know. I'm working for myself to figure out ways to bring income in. And I'm changing my tactics, or changing not who I am, but the people that I reach, like you. Recognize that negative influence often work on you through your subconscious mind. Therefore, they are difficult to detect. That's why I was saying, go through the questions and then ask somebody else about those questions. And they could keep your mind closed against all people who, and keep your mind closed against all people who depress or discourage you in any way. So turn off the television. And if you turn on something, or turn on YouTube, or turn on Netflix, look for things that are uplifting, that will teach. Netflix has a ton of documentaries. Amazon Prime has documentaries. Hulu has documentaries. Disney Plus. They've got things where you can look to improve yourself. There's a lot of them on health. Yeah, you get the impression that I'm really into the health thing. Okay? So, deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act for yourself. So that's what I want you to do. But I want to encourage you to join me for the Think and Grow Rich Masterclass that's coming up in a week. In fact, a week from today. You can go to tinyurl.com/ThinkRich2019. That's my Eventbrite page. Scroll down and you'll see the Think and Grow Rich Masterclass. And right now it's at its higher rate. So I want you to use the discount code Corona. And that will give you the early bird special price because you were watching me on this video. So there's a self-analysis test questions here that you should go through to see where you are. But this isn't all that's in this book. What I was getting to earlier is the fact that this was released in 1937. The correspondence course that this particular book was based on was called The 16 Laws of Success. The copy I have was copyrighted in 1928. And you go, okay, so yeah, these are old, but between 1928 and 1937 was the Great Depression. That's why his book flew off the shelves. That's why the 16 Laws of Success, people were taking it and people were changing their lives and becoming successful. But it wasn't people who just read the book or read the 16 Laws of Success. It was people who studied, took the information to heart, put things into practice, learned to work with their subconscious mind, and they were able to make changes. As a hypnotist, I help you, I train you how to get to your subconscious mind consciously. And in the Think and Grow Rich Masterclass, when we study each section, at the end of that session, which is usually about 45 minutes to an hour, I take you through a meditation. And that meditation is designed to take the information we have learned and help it go into your subconscious mind. The reason affirmations fail is because we have to say them over and over and over and over and over, and 10 times in the morning and in the afternoon and at night, and if we forget or we just don't deal with it or that'll never happen, it doesn't get into the subconscious. That's the idea of doing affirmations over and over, is so that that belief goes into the subconscious. But if your basic beliefs, the basic ideas, the person who you are never changes because you don't recognize you in those questions, and chapter 7 is even deeper, then you'll never make the change. And you'll go, Think and Grow Rich is a really good book. That's what I said 20 years ago. It's a really nice book. Thank you for letting me read it. Right? And most people get out of it, well, you get people to help you do things, you know, and so it led people to direct sales. And direct sales helps. But you are a brilliant human being. You've got ideas in your head that will help you distinguish yourself over and above other people. Again, my name is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness. If you liked what you heard today, I'd appreciate it very much if you would give me a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll know when I upload some new information. Join me on Facebook. Look for me on Beverly Fells Jones on Facebook. However, my company name is Commanding Your Life, and I have a Facebook group called Commanding Your Life, as well as a fan page called Commanding Your Life. I know it can be kind of confusing when we're doing this, because I called it Eclectic Alchemy because I talk about a number of things. So Commanding Your Life on Facebook. Join the group, because I plan to be doing some Facebook Lives on there, some training, and you'll get to know some ways that you can help get rid of the negativity to change your mind, to change your life. I'll see you in the next video.